Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, hopefully, yet again, to the Collective Pack's virtual speaker series called Our Collective Power. We're excited that you all joined us this evening for a dynamic conversation. But we're going to take a few minutes, wait for some more folks to join on, and we'll be right back to you in about a minute or so. So, see you in a minute. Hi, again, welcome to the Collective Packs speaker series, Our Collective Power. I am your moderator for this evening, Stephanie Brown James, co founder and executive director of the Collective Pack. And I'm so excited to have these conversations with you now, almost every other week. This is our eighth conversation that we're having, and I hope many of you have been with us for all seven. I can guarantee that tonight is going to be an engaging conversation like all the ones that we've had thus far have been. And I'm super excited because we have with us tonight three folks who are running for office that are literally able to make decisions that are going to impact our country for years, decades to come. We are talking about the South having something to say. If you've been with us before, you know that this is the second installation of this conversation that we've had. We were able to have Stacey Abrams and Reverend Raphael Warnock, who's also running for the U.S. Senate as a part of that last conversation, and Lucy McBath. But tonight we're talking about the South having something to say with three other candidates that are running for the U.S. Senate representing Southern states. And if you've been following politics or not following politics, but you just are aware that, you know, oftentimes when we talk about Black candidates running for, you know, some of the highest offices in the land, many of them are coming from Southern states. But over the past few years, I would say, you know, with Andrew Gillum in Florida, with, again, Stacey Abrams in Georgia, who had national attention on their races, we are seeing Black candidates rising up in the South saying, yes, I want to be in elected office. And, you know, we know that we have a long way to go to get equity within Congress. We currently have only 3 Black senators out of 100 senators in the U.S. Senate. We have 55 Black Congress members. To get equity in Congress, we would have to have we have 55 Black Congress members. We need 57 for equity. But you know, we're on the road to progress, and so I want to go ahead and introduce briefly, because I really want to save time for conversation. I'm going to introduce our wonderful special guests this evening, who are representing the South in the mightiest way possible. So let's bring on our speakers this evening. We have Adrian Perkins, Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate in Louisiana. Marquita Bradshaw, Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate in Tennessee. And Mike Espy, Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate in Mississippi. Hey, y'all.
How you doing? How you doing, Stephanie?
I promise I'm not going to be corny and be like, hey, y'all.
It's all right. It's all right.
We pronounce it. We pronounce it Mississippi.
Mississippi. Well, okay. So let me tell you something about this, Mr. Mike Espy. My family is from Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay.
My parents went to my mom went to Tougaloo. My daddy went to Jackson State. So I claim Jackson, Mississippi as my other home. So and
you went to Howard.
Oh, come on, fellow Bison. You already know what it is. So we got a lot in common, okay?
I was doing well in this cycle.
Huh?
I was doing well in this cycle with Kamala Harris.
I mean, does Howard not always do well? I'm gonna try to pull back on my Bison pride, but I'm telling you, it's hard to do.
It's hard to do.
And let me tell you, Adrian Perkins, Marquita Bradshaw, I've had a little bit too much fun in both of y'all states, so I'm not going to talk about that because y'all got some. Let me tell you, between Memphis and Shreveport, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lord have mercy. Anyways, we're going to focus on what's important at hand. And that is the fact that the three of you are running for the United States Senate, which, as we have seen, has become the body that increasingly is important in making substantial decisions that impact all Americans, that really impact the globe. But before we get into the conversation, today is a heavy day. We finally, after over 100 days, have received some semblance of a verdict in the Breonna Taylor case. Not at all what any of us would have wanted to see, but not surprisingly, we got the outcome that we did. Also, we're just a few days from Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing away. So it's been some heavy times. And so in honor of both of those ladies, I actually want to just pause for a second for just a quick moment for us to remember both of them. Thank you both. Thank you all. Appreciate that. So today, today was heavy with regards to the decision with Breonna Taylor, and I don't want us to not miss talking about it at the top of our conversation. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news come out of Louisville today? We'll start with you, Mike, and then Marquita and Adrian.
Well, my first reaction is, how many more? George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna, how many more? And you just get numb to it. And then after your numbness wears off, you just get angry because, these officers should have been charged. These are felonies, and they should have been charged. It should have been indicted by the grand jury, I believe. And honestly, we know it shouldn't have happened at all because the technology exists in America today in 2020 where these officers should have already known they're in the wrong apartment. They're in the wrong apartment. When I go to the supermarket, I buy a can of beans. You can't leave the supermarket without advertising on your digital device about buying beans. So, the satellite is following us all. They should have known that they were knocking on and knocking down the wrong door. So, but that doesn't excuse anything. They should have been indicted. There should have been felonies for these officers. And so how many more? So my impression was numbness and then anger and then challenging us to do something about this. Police misconduct, better tactics, better training, better equipment, and, more Black officers on patrol and just eliminating these chokeholds and these no-knock warrants. All of that has to go.
Marquita?
Look, this is not just a headline. We have somebody's daughter. Me as a mother, somebody's daughter went too soon. And it'll be our responsibilities as the next United States senators, once all of us win our races in November, that we not only look at the past, but prepare for the future to make sure that no other Breonna Taylors happen again. Right now, we need to implement a national continuum of force policy that bans all no-knock warrants in all levels of law enforcement, because no-knock warrants, they're dangerous for civilians and officers too. And we just need to move away from that so we will not have to bury somebody else's child.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Adrian?
Yeah, I got to say my first reaction to it was what most people felt, probably just heartbreak, honestly. I mean, we've seen this time and time again, but before I really get into my comments, I want to send my sincerest condolences to those that knew Breonna Taylor, those that love Breonna Taylor, her family. They deserve better. Our community deserves better. This is unfortunate. I'm a mayor of a city, but every day I wake up before I don this pen, I'm an African-American man. I know exactly what the perils of our community are going through. And when we see things like this over and over and over, it breaks our heart. It separates and divides our communities, and it's an injustice. So I'm really hoping that her family gets justice at the end of the day, and we got to keep pushing. That's exactly why we're doing what we're doing, so that we can go to the United States Senate and be a part of these decisions, be a part of the decisions that can ban no-knock warrants, that can ban or have reform with, police reform and things of that nature, and qualified immunity, and the things that just time and time again sets a legal justice bar that prevents our community from feeling like we've had justice. So, I hate we started off on such a somber note, but yeah, the news out of Kentucky today was really heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I appreciate you all giving your thoughts on it. And I promise we're gonna pivot in a minute. But I think that this is the nature of where we are as a society. And then you look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing last Friday, and almost immediately attention turning to the U.S. Senate. And what are the Republicans going to do when it comes to filling her vacancy in the Supreme Court? I mean, literally, it almost was like, oh, she passed U.S., and it's just like, my goodness. But the reality is the U.S. Senate holds significant power when it comes to, they pick who the Supreme Court justices are. And so I'm sure that provides a different kind of perspective for you all running for U.S. Senate. And just want to know, do you feel more pressure? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel as though, I'm sure you're not in support of, the Republicans trying to have this decision be made before the elections, but just how does it make you think overall of the role of a U.S. Senator in light of Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing in this vacancy on the Supreme Court?
Who is that for?
And actually, I'll start with Marquita with that.
Well, one thing is that I really wish we would have more time to celebrate her legacy instead of something that's supposed to be as non-political as a Supreme Court justice appointment has become political because of power-thirsty Republicans. They are pushing fast to install someone, and it should be the person that gets elected and actually gets to serve in January who should appoint the next Supreme Court justice. Right now, they're rolling back, the possibility of rolling back everything that she fought for as far as immigration and equality, and even for the woman's right to choose. Right now, everything is on the line, and we have to make sure that we stand ready. And also, we have to make sure that we install a Democratic U.S. Senate come January 3rd, 2021. Because even if we elect a new president, they will not be able to roll back the damage of them appointing a political nomination. It would throw off the balance that we're supposed to have in the Supreme Court. And that means that we'll have to go in fighting to raise the Supreme Court justices in order to restore the balance.
Yeah, excellent point. Yeah. Mike?
Yes, thank you so much, Stephanie. Well, I forgot my manners at the outset. I forgot to just thank Collective PAC for sponsoring us today, for supporting me, for endorsing me, and been so great to our campaign. And also, how happy I am to be on with Marquita Bradshaw and great Mayor Adrian Perkins. So thanks all for you in the South. South is going to do it. So with respect to your question, well, I'm from a funeral home family. And I believe in that funeral home tradition where when she died, before I entered the fray, everybody, like you said, Stephanie, I mean, she died one day and the next 10 seconds, everybody's speaking about succession and all of that. I'm probably the last Senate candidate in the country to have not weighed in on the succession question until like Monday afternoon. Because, I mean, this is a great legal mind. She's got a great legacy, great human being. Everything she did for gender rights and human rights and voting rights and, right to choose and all of that. We just had to stop and thank her for her life. But I did enter the fray. And I believe most of all of us on the call believe that what's being done now to ram this thing through is wholly inappropriate, is hypocritical. It's directly opposite to what was done when Obama had his vacancy. They waited 10 months. With the nominee back then. And so I do believe that the Mississippians should have a right to choose. And they'll do that on November 3rd. So I think the Mississippians and all Americans should wait. And the next president should have the right to choose the next Supreme Court nominee to be confirmed by the next Senate, according to our rights to advise and consent. And so we don't have to run this through, especially so quickly, for a lifetime appointment to the highest court in the land. And we know why they're doing it. They're doing it because of Obamacare. They're doing it because this case is going to be heard in the Supreme Court November 10th. So they want another conservative justice to be on the bench so they can rescind pre-existing illness, Medicaid expansion, the rudiments of Obamacare. They want to take it away because they've not been able to do it legislatively over the hundreds of times they've done it in the House and Senate. So here they want to put a death knell on it by rushing through a conservative justice, and they right away are going to kill medical insurance for 600,000 people. And here in Mississippi, Lord knows we're the poorest state in the nation, and our folks need Medicaid expansion. Our rural hospitals need to be saved. We need people with the confidence of having pre-existing illness coverage, and all that's going to be stripped away if they have someone else like they're trying to do to strip it. So I mourn the death of Justice Ginsburg, but more than that, I'm just so fearful. November 10th is coming, and they want to have this female justice confirmed and robed and sitting so they can strip away what we worked so hard to install, and it's awful.
Mm-hmm. You summed it up. And Adrian, I would love your take on this, but also you're in a unique position because you have can you just explain when it comes to your election, the dates and how your election is different from the other U.S. Senate candidates?
Yes, absolutely. So you want me to, can I respond to the first question and then transition?
Sure. Yeah, however you like.
And I'll keep it very short. I mean, I'll keep it as short as possible. And like Mike, I want to thank Collective PAC as well for your support and endorsement. Always a pleasure to be on with Mike and the veteran just showing us the way. But with Justice Ginsburg, her passing, I think it's similar to the Breonna Taylor thing in that it's a tragedy. And then the actions of our state makes things worse. And the Breonna Taylor is the court ruling today. With Justice Ginsburg, it's our Senate threatening, or they're going to follow through with appointing a justice that's going to erase what she fought for every single day for decades in our Supreme Court. That's just adding on to an already rough year in 2020. And I really hope the message to everybody is that when we celebrate progress, and understand when we celebrate progress and all of Justice Ginsburg accomplishments, and we celebrate the progress of today. We're talking to the 3 Senate candidates in the Deep South, and there's multiple, I think, an historic number of African-American Senate candidates run. We have to be conscious that we still have to push and we still have to fight. I'm a military man, and whenever we have a mission, there are often objectives along the mission. And when you hit one of those objectives along the way, you might take a second, you might high five somebody that's in your unit, but you got to continue to move. And right now, our work is not done. These tragedies and the actions afterwards are reminding us that we have to continue to fight to make sure that this country lives up to the ideals that is promised to every citizen. And we know we are not there yet. So I just wanted to add that part. I am from Louisiana, also one of the poorest states in the union, and our elections here is a little different. We have parishes, not counties, and all that other stuff. So we're always different. But what's going to take place is it's a jungle primary here. There is no Democratic primary. There's a jungle primary, meaning Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everybody jumps in on the presidential election day on November 3rd. Everybody has to run against each other. If nobody gets 50% of the vote plus one vote, then there's a runoff with the top two vote getters. There could be two Democrats, there could be two Republicans, you name it. That runoff will take place in December. And the reason why that runoff is extremely important and special is because Louisiana and Georgia are the last two races to decide whether or not the Senate will be red or blue, or how red or how blue the Senate will be. So all eyes will be on Louisiana for the month of December when we run that runoff race. And right now polls have me in the top two positions, and Senator Cassidy is about 10 points underwater right now in polling, and only about 38% of people in Louisiana support his reelection. So we have a real opportunity here. And I want people to know, like, hey, let's absolutely celebrate that I'm a candidate, that Mike's a candidate, that Marquis is a candidate. But we got some work to do before our elections come up.
Yep.
And so I actually want to stick with you for a minute, Adrian. And, I remember earlier this year when you announced that you were running for U.S. Senate, and I was like, how in the world is Adrian Perkins not on my radar? Like, I'm like, I should have been, me and my husband should have been drinking buddies with him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure we passed each other in multiple CBC conferences. But then when I started to learn about you and, West Point grad, Harvard University law school graduate, defeated an incumbent to become mayor of Shreveport, Louisiana. And I'm like, this dude ain't even 40 yet. I mean, I was just like, he has to win. Like he is the epitome of progress and forward movement of what Louisiana needs. And so I just want to know about your thought process. And we work with a lot of candidates across the country, and they're battling. Like, when is the right time to run? Because they know that they have a spirit of service, but it is a hard decision, I know, to say, yes, I am going to get in this race and have every single thing I've done in my background questioned and challenged, and people talking about my wife or whatever it is, because your whole family is involved in the race. Yeah. What led you to the decision to say, yes, at this time in 2020, I want to run for the U.S. Senate?
Yeah, Stephanie, I got to go back to you talking about my age. So I'm 34 years old, and my mom, and I guess I should say this saying originated in the church. I don't look like what I've been through. I've been through quite a bit at 34, as you pointed out. But my life has been about service, and it started a long time ago. And I think the moment that's most similar to this one and me stepping up to run for Senate started after 9/11. When I was in high school, I was an all-state athlete. I was an honor student. I had a lot of opportunities to go to a bunch of universities around the country, and I was planning on going to just a normal school, to an average school and majoring in engineering and architecture. But when 9/11 happened and I saw the fear on my classmates' faces, the fear on my family's faces, I made a commitment that day that I would accept my nomination at West Point and go into the military, because I wanted to protect my family. I wanted to protect my community. And I went to West Point, was the first African-American graduate to be class president there, went into the military, served for 8 years. And as you pointed out, came back home to run for mayor. And this year, a very, very similar thing happened. 9/11, we were under attack by terrorists, a foreign enemy. But this year, we've been under attack by a virus that has devastated our community, especially the African-American community. And I saw the devastation that it was causing to our community. And once again, I saw the fear on people's faces. I saw that look of uncertainty on what tomorrow will bring. And I said, you know what? I prayed. I said, how can I help? How can I step up and serve in a capacity where I know I can protect my citizens? Because I'm the mayor and I was working overtime to protect my citizens. But I realized Washington, D.C. was being neglectful and they were being harmful. They weren't there. And my opponent is a medical doctor. You would have thought he would have led a charge if there was a pandemic. He wasn't there. And then they start to be harmful, start to politicize a pandemic. Earlier it was brought up that we're politicizing Supreme Court justice appointments. I'm not surprised. They politicize a pandemic. So as I'm working in my community to put out messages, public service messages, to tell people to wear a mask and really protect themselves, protect their neighbors, protect their families, you got Washington, D.C. saying, oh, this is a civil liberties problem, or, oh, you're not a patriot if you're wearing a mask, and crazy stuff like that. And at that point, I said, you know what? I'm not sitting on the sideline anymore. I am going to step up in this moment, and I'm going to protect my community. And the first step to that is making sure that people like Bill Cassidy that will not step up and use his medical expertise to protect my family, protect my community, or believe that the fact that the federal government should be functional and should be supporting us, especially in our greatest times of need. While people like that serve in office, I can't protect my family, I can't protect my community, so I'm going to challenge them. And my thoughts are the same thoughts around Louisiana. So we're very confident that we'll be successful in November and December. Yes.
Well, we're all very confident, and we have your back. And again, I just want to say, I appreciate you saying, I may not look like what I've been through. Yeah. If that is not the case for Black people as a whole, I mean, my goodness.
Amen.
Which leads me to say, please, that was a hashtagable quote that he just said there. Please use the hashtag. South has something to say, or our collective power, the collective, to share the many jewels that will be dropped tonight on social media. So next, I want to ask you, Marquita. So first of all, I came in contact with the Marquita Bradshaw at the Collective's Black Campaign School last year when she came and wanted to be trained on how to run for office, how to serve. But most importantly, I feel like Marquita was there to also provide guidance and direction to so many of the other folks who were at the training. And so I'm grateful to say that you are a Black Campaign School alum. And just to be able to support you now as you run for the U.S. Senate, which came as a surprise to some folks, Marquita. I'm sure that's no surprise to you. But in reality, you have been a champion of the community for so many years. You're from South Memphis. You've been able to be an environmental justice advocate. You've been a person on the front lines working to make sure that, we have justice and equality for all, and not just your state, but across this country. But a lot of folks don't know who Marquita Bradshaw is, and why Marquita Bradshaw is in this race and what she wants to do for all those in Tennessee. So can you give us a little bit more information about you, Marquita, and what got you into this race?
Well, I do have to say thank you to the Collective PAC and also the Black Campaign School, because that was where I publicly actually announced that I was running for U.S. Senate and that I was going to win. And everybody looked at me strange, but they was like, who is this woman and where did she come from then? And so I'm used to people questioning me. What I knew is that I know how it feels like not to have representation at the U.S. Senate level. For many years, we've been fighting for environmental justice, dealing with environmental racism. When my career took me from going door to door in my community and to actually getting paid for organizing, like a union organ, because I didn't know people actually got paid to organize when I was organizing in my community. I became a union organizer and then community organizer on many human rights issues. And so some people know Marquita Bradshaw on a personal level, how much I care about people and how much I care about human rights. I know that working people have not had a voice in the state of Tennessee at the U.S. Senate level. I know how that feels, and I've been connecting with people. And I knew that something was happening in the primary when we were actually campaigning in a pandemic, and nobody had a point of reference of how to run a campaign in a pandemic. I knew we were winning when, even though I had been traveling across the state, and when we started to see those small dollar donations come in from places that I have not able to physically actually touch. 10 Mile, Tennessee, Sweetwater, Tennessee, and among some of the bigger cities and a lot of the rural cities throughout Tennessee. I told my mom, I said, something is happening. I said, they know we are here and that we're ready to fight together. And that was when it came no surprise to us, but it was a surprise to others that working people actually do want to be involved in the political process. They just need a different type of candidate, one that's not a cookie cutter candidate and one that's willing to fight for hardworking families and listen to people's voice. It was all about connecting with voters and using the organizing process of relational organizing to utilize that for a political campaign. And that's what we continue to do past the primary. And you see now more and more people getting involved in the process. And a lot of people are like, well, who is Marquita? Well, I invite them to come on in and learn that, look, I'm a mom, I'm a caregiver, I was an organizer, and now I'm here because I want to make sure that all of Tennessee has healthy and safe communities.
I appreciate that so much. Just hearing your story, and also, listen, we got to pound the pavement. You know, we actually have to talk to voters in our states and in our districts and in our parishes when we're running for office. And so I thank you, Adrian and Marquita, for sharing your stories with us. And listen, I'm not going to ask you, Mr. Mike Espy, to share your whole story, because the man from Yazoo City, Howard University, Bison, you've been in this game a little bit longer than the rest of us have. But what I love is that you have a legacy of service. I mean, as the first Black man to be elected to Congress in the state of Mississippi since Reconstruction, that's incredible. To be chosen by Bill Clinton to serve as Secretary of Agriculture, that's incredible. And so you've had such a legacy of service to Mississippi that I wonder, and I actually asked this question 2 weeks ago. We had the wonderful congresswomen that are, many of them running in the South. Pat Timmons-Goodson's running for Congress in North Carolina, and the first Black woman to ever be on the North Carolina Supreme Court. And I asked you a question, which is what I want to ask you now. You're so qualified for this. You should be the U.S. Senator with no question, and yet you have to run against a woman who is just absolutely horrible. And I don't usually say that about folks, but Cindy Highsmith, who laughs about public lynchings, who is all for suppression. How do you feel when you have to talk to voters and convince them to choose you over her?
Well, Stephanie, thank you for the review of my entire career. So I'll just tell Adrian, so maybe I look like what I've been through. I've got all this gray hair, man. But it's been fun, I tell you. So to your question, Stephanie, I was standing on the stage about 18 months ago, conceding to Cindy Hyde-Smith, conceding to her. And although my heart was heavy, because all of us running for office, I believe, a lot of people want to be something, but I wanted to do something. That's why I'm running again. So I'm standing on that stage, I'm conceding to her. I'm hearing the words coming out of my mouth, and my heart is heavy, but my spirit is light. Because right before I left my green room to go out to concede to her, I looked at the figures, and we were getting 47% of the statewide vote, 47. And I have not run for office in 25 years. So the young folks didn't know the story. They didn't know my connection to fight Jim Crow and all of that. They didn't know. So I just figured that one thing, I knew I'd run again. I was standing there conceding, knowing I'd run again. Because when I ran in 2018, Thad Cochran, who was the incumbent senator, fell ill and resigned in March. And the special election was in November. So I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I've got to start a campaign, raise the money, form the message, inform the voters, all in 6-7 months. And we still got 47% of the vote. And then I looked and I said, I saw that 99% of the African American voters in Mississippi voted for me. In the urban areas like Jackson, and 94% in the rural areas, which means they're less informed and maybe they must be a little bit better motivated. And then I got 18% of the white vote. And these are white folks who believe in Medicaid expansion, rural hospitals not closing. And so I said, okay, if I just have more time and more resources, we can go and get 22% of the white vote, go to the young folks and let them know my all the stories I had with Jim Crow and racial segregation in Mississippi. I integrated all white high school. There were 17 black students among 700 white students. I was the N-word every day. And then when the schools merged, black and white, the black teachers didn't come over. And I led a march because I was a black senior class president. I led a march to get the black teachers to come. And the march was successful. But for me, the superintendent docked my GPA 2 points for every day we were out. We were out 3 days. So my GPA as a senior in high school was docked 6 points. And I'm trying to go to college. So I've got stories, but I'm saying if we just have more time, motivate the African American voters. There were 100,000 black voters that are infrequent. So we just need more data and targeting them. Here's the last thing, and I believe the others on this show can share this. We're all in the South, and in Mississippi, we have more black voters per capita than any state in the nation. So it's 60-40, it's 60 white, 40 black. So I'm going to get 99% of the 40. All I got to do is cross over and get 10% plus 1. So what I'm saying is that we are ignored, even though we have the predicate of victory. All they have to do is look at the numbers in Tennessee, in Louisiana, and in Mississippi. They see this great congregation of black voters just waiting to be motivated. It's always a catch-22 here, down here. Catch-22 is that you're ignored until they believe that you can show up. You're ignored until they believe that you can prove yourself. But you can't prove yourself because you're ignored. Because the people that'll vote for me, they'll vote for me, but they don't have $5 or $10 or $50 or any measure of disposable income to give to me. So it's just a bitch catch-22. You just have to bust through. And to bust through, you have to keep motivating. You have to go to the bottom 1/3, because I don't believe that that poverty has a race and poor doesn't have a color. So if I go to the bottom 1/3, I'm going to lift the African-American population. And also, because there are more white poor, we can lift up the low-income poor. So we lift up everybody, and that brings us up from number 50. So I knew when I was conceding that I would run again. And so the difference between then and now is that we got a longer runway. I've had more time to be out here, even during the pandemic. We have a world-class data set that has identified the 100,000 infrequent black voters. I'm now telling my story to all the Black Lives Matter young people who are now involved in my campaign. And we are building the largest, deepest, highest, most robust turnout operation in Mississippi's history. And so now it's been proven, because our polling went from 9% down in February to 5% down 1st of August to 1% down 2 days ago. 1% down. And here's why we're doing it. Because you mentioned Sidney Hyde Smith. I love Mississippi. She loves Mississippi. Okay. But that's what the similarities end. She is so bad for us because she wants to drag us back to the days of yore. Drive us back to those old times when human beings could legally own other human beings. Why am I saying that? Because she went to the Jefferson Davis Museum. She tried on that little rebel hat, the waistcoat, held a rifle, and she said that is the best of Mississippi's history. No, we want to shut the book. We want to turn the page. We want to move on into the third decade of the 21st century. And I believe the upperly mobile white voters, the white women in the suburbs, the white young people in the college towns, the age 35 below white. They're joining with us now. And we're going to marry that with a humongous black turnout. And we're going to have a Senate race November 3rd, and we're going to win it.
Listen, I know that's right. I'm so motivated and I'm so inspired. And in thinking of how we started this conversation and where we are now, we have about 15 minutes to go in the conversation. You all have been able to just to really show the power of having people run for office that love the people, respect the people they are working to represent. But you have to be supported. You have to be supported, and not late. You got to be supported early. And so I thank you, Mike, for much of what you said is, I think, a commercial for the collective. We are working to support Black candidates on a local, state, and federal level early and often. It is our goal to max out to all 156 candidates that we have endorsed this cycle. 101 of them are Black women, because we know that you need the support. And just thinking of support, I can remember in 2018, Quentin and I had to have a very serious conversation with some Democratic establishment organizations, the DCCC. I have no shame. Yep. To let them know that you have to support these Black candidates. You have to. And so I'm curious as to, and I know that there's a delicate balance between party politics and you running your races. But we need the support of Democratic established organizations, established donors, to support your races. And so just curious as to what you think, how are Democrats viewing the South? Are they supporting Southern candidates? And what else needs to be done to get the Democratic establishment to support Black candidates that are running on a local, state, and federal level? And I'll start. Okay.
Well, I'll be brief. I had a conversation with Reverend Barber from the Poor People's Campaign the other day. I was on one of these Zoom calls, and he told me that we were speaking about Mississippi. He said Mississippi is not so much red as it is unorganized. And I said, hallelujah. And so if we had the investment from the DSCC, I have no shame, and the DNC, I have no shame. If they come and invest in the political infrastructure of these states like Mississippi, where the population is 40%, and where I got 99% 18 months ago in the urban areas, we could elevate. We'd have more Black candidates running and winning for federal office and statewide office. All it takes are resources. And they don't do it because it's red and they're just used to us not winning. And it's a catch-22, like I said. So we have to stop it and make sure that we have qualified candidates, certainly like the two that are on the call with me, make sure that we have well-motivated candidates and that we speak to everyone regardless of race. Because, regardless of sex, age, race, income, sexual orientation, I want you to vote for me because I'm the guy to lift Mississippi up. So I believe that if we cannot ignore the South, these are what the Black voters are. These are where the low-income voters are. If we can move them to the Democratic message, healthcare, education, job availability, they can invest in us, and then we'll be the best senators for the nation.
Absolutely. Marquita, I love your take on this.
Look, the DNC and the DSCC, they can do more.
I thought you were going to say something else when you said they can. I was going to be like, this a family show, Marquita?
No, I'm going to take
my mama and daddy are watching this show, Marquita. Yeah, anyways, go ahead. You saying the politically correct way, girl. Go ahead.
They can do more and they can invest early. That's what they can do to help candidates. They can invest early because right now we are in a unique position in Tennessee where we can actually flip this seat. My friends and I, when we first started talking about me running for this seat, we declared Tennessee a battleground state. And we are going to fight for it. That's what makes it a battleground state. And I don't know if you really understand the impact of what it meant for working people to give their dollars. We are working with a different index, and we have flipped viability on its head when it comes to relational organizing in a political campaign, those $1 and $2 that came from working people, that represented whole families.
Yeah.
That is what's going to be different. And it's not just, yes, if Shelby County shows up, we're good, but we need for rural Tennessee to show up, and we need other places to show up across Tennessee of things that connect us together. Working people, we need high quality education. We need an economy that's built around us, and we need an environment with a just transition away from pollution. And so those are the things that connect us as working people. And that is what has been bringing people in this political process. And even in a pandemic, we are doing social distancing events outside, where the last place we went, they were sad that there was only 150 people. And I was like, no, I see 150 people that represent 1,000 more people that they know.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I know how we're going to win, and it's because of relationships. You don't just move one voter to the poll, you move whole families. And when you move whole families, you move a whole community. When you move a whole community, you move a whole city. And that's how you flip a U.S. Senate seat in Tennessee. And that's how we're going to do it, and that's how we're going to win. And they can either come early or late, but we will win.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, honey. Thank you, Marquita, for that. And what you said just actually made me want to throw a slight nuance to this question for you, Adrian. Because you have to talk to so many people when you're running, and so you have to talk to the establishment folks, the state party folks. But yeah, individual voters represent families, and right now, unfortunately, what we don't hear enough about when it comes to the elections is the importance of speaking directly to Black men. And so what I want to know is, as you're out here working to talk to voters of different economic backgrounds and across the state, what is your message to Black men? Does it differ from your messages to other voters? And how confident do you feel that the Black community is going to come out the way that we need to see in Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee?
Yeah, my message isn't very different to Black men than it is to the Black community overall. Representation is important, and the fact that I am a Black man running for office, that has resonated with so many people just while I'm out. Just young Black men walking up to me saying, "Hey, I admire what you do. I want to do A, B, C, or D," or point out something that is in my background, saying, "Hey, I want to do that. I saw that you did it. You let me know that it was capable." So I know, and just with what I carry with me, that we are speaking to some young Black men. But I can tell you, and talking about the Black family right now, and talking about our families in Louisiana that through no fault of their own, because of COVID-19, that they have lost jobs, hundreds of jobs across our economy, and that they are looking for relief from the government right now so that we can get on the other side of this pandemic. We got a government that's telling people to stay inside of a home, but a government that let a housing moratorium in and stop paying unemployment benefits to people. So you got
and evicting folks, yeah.
Exactly. So you got working class families, and South is still pretty traditional. Oftentimes, consider the man the head of the household and all that, and women, y'all holding it down too. Don't beat me up for that, but I'm just saying, you got these people that are working these jobs. I'll use my brother for instance. My brother works for a steel company that has indefinitely closed their doors. A steel company that does oil and gas work. They've indefinitely closed their doors. So my brother is one of these people that I'm talking about that's trying to figure out, hey, how do I put food on the table tomorrow without the benefits to cover me while I'm going through this. My brother has been continuously employed since he was 16 years old. So this myth about, people are volunteering and not working, all that is crazy. But how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay my rent? Those problems are resonating throughout our community. And, Black men, Black women, right now, we are all trying to figure out our way through this. And I think that's the way we're connecting with them right now. Of Maslow's hierarchy of needs right now. Food, shelter, security is what people are thinking about. We don't have time in our community, to think about those other higher level of things. So that's what's most on people's minds, and that's helped our campaign. I have a non-traditional route that I've taken. I've only been running for just under 7 weeks. And in just under 7 weeks, we have over 20,000 donors. Our average donation amount is $50. About 3 weeks ago, last time I checked, we had over 50 parishes of the 64 parishes in this state that had donated to my campaign. So that message is resonating, where people know that Adrian Perkins will go to the U.S. Senate and he understands the working class family because he is from one. He grew up in a home where his mom made $38,000 a year and had to take care of him and his older brothers and had to work multiple jobs and then still somehow magically earned a bachelor's degree. He understands that, and he's going to go to Washington, D.C. and fight for us. So, my path has been a bit non-traditional. It's been quick, but that does not blind me from the systemic problems that Marquita and Mike have gone through with the lack of support from these institutions. It's kind of fighting like a two-front war. And I'm sorry for the military analogies, but I was in it for a long time. You got to get the people, but you also have to get the institutions as well, because our political system, and being frank with you, you have to have a lot of money to run these kind of races, a statewide race. And Marquita and Mike absolutely have the people, and they have been fighting to make sure that these institutions get in line, because the South, we will not have the leadership that represents us until these things are aligned. The institutions and the people are aligned, and we've seen for far too long that they have been disjointed. Again, today is a day of progress where you see these other two very, very qualified Senate candidates on the screen with me. I encourage people to read the HuffPost article that was written about the 6 candidates this year. Like I said, that's a historic moment for us. But until we do this, until we run without asking for permission, we'll never get those things aligned. And that's exactly what we need to have a more representative South. And that's what we are. We are very inclusive and way, way beyond what a lot of people that live outside of our borders think of us.
So speaking out of your borders and out of the borders, and this is a quick question. We have about 5 minutes left, but I have 2 very quick questions. So kind of like fast. One, tell us something that we don't know. There's always news headlines about your races. What's not being talked about? Kind of quick one. Anybody have something that comes top of mind?
Yeah,
something that we should know. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
My opponent today started on television, and she had some stock photos of some African American folks that maybe she got on the internet. I mean, come on now. So that's something that shouldn't have been done by anybody. So once you go to the catalog and get pictures of somebody and paste them on your commercials, and they're not even from Mississippi, that's something that's going to be known here in a little bit.
Yeah, you're right about that. Thank you. Adrian or Marquita?
Go ahead, Adrian.
You want me to? Okay, yeah, I'll tell this. A lot of people don't know this, but my opponent recommended closing our HBCUs and turning them into prisons. That's where his mindset is, on top of the fact that he just doesn't believe that DC should be very functional at all, that he has been just lockstep with Mitch McConnell and making sure that our working class families don't get the unemployment benefits that they need, and fighting to strip away health care from 500,000 Louisianians. So that's my opponent. But I will say something outside of my opponent, and that's that what people don't know often is listening to these pundits will get us exactly what we do not want, and we cannot listen to them, and that they do not determine our elections, that we are the ones that determine our elections. As Mike has said, he has beat the odds time and time again. Until we realize that these pundits are oftentimes harmful to our progress, then it's going to drive us away from the polls. And this is a year that we cannot afford. There's far too much on the ballot. Joe Biden's saying is the soul of the country on the ballot, but we got to realize the future of our country is on the ballot. And we got to get out there and vote.
Mm-hmm. You almost had me go through this computer about the HBCUs, Adrian. And I know everything else you said was important too, but I heard HBCUs closing, and it was just like I was laser focused. I know Mike was too.
Yeah, it's some furniture moving around in our state because of it. Yeah, you better believe it.
So,
brother,
a lot of people have some misconceptions, and a lot of times they try to make me invisible as a Black woman, even in this U.S. Senate race. And however, despite all the attempts to try to make me invisible, it's people that see me in rural Tennessee and East Tennessee, where people think that we would not have that much support, and it's growing. to the fact that some people are staunch Republicans and saying, I'm going to vote for you because you are a real person and you actually care about us as Tennesseans. And that's what this whole campaign is about, to address how people have been marginalized, no matter where they are in the state of Tennessee, and make sure that they have a voice in this process. We have had 21,000 donors since Election Day. If all of those donors had the ability to max out, can you imagine how much money that would be? Well, that's the working people's index that's going to secure this win for this U.S. Senate seat.
I know that's right.
They don't understand. And if you look at the way people poll, they thought I came out of the blue. I wasn't out of the blue. I was on the ground. And when I couldn't be on the ground because of COVID, we had implemented ways to reach people digitally and had the first town hall digitally for the U.S. Senate race here in the state of Tennessee. The thing is, we are going where voters are in this pandemic in a way that's keeping people safe, because some people, they can't get to us and I can't get to them by internet, and sometimes not by cell phone. And so that means that we are going into those communities to let them know how important they are and how much of this process that they own. And that's what this whole campaign is about, is bringing people together in order for us to have a true voice in the United States Senate.
Listen, I wasn't out of the blue. I was on the ground. Ooh, girl. That's a strong quote right there. We'll be making that into a graphic and we'll send that to you, Marquita. But before we get ready to wrap, and I'm telling you, this hour goes by so quickly. I have to ask you one extremely serious question. At the end of the day, and I know that these campaign days are long, they're hard. And so I just want to, again, express my appreciation for each of you coming on to talk today. I'm sure you've been on numerous Zooms and have also been on the ground talking to voters. My most serious question is, you're at home, you put them sweatpants on, you know, some of y'all already I got my sweatpants on now, but anyways, I'm talking about it. What is that one piece of comfort food you have to have to end the night? What is it?
Comfort food?
Comfort food. I gotta have it.
Well, I'm partial to potato pie with coffee.
Oh, that's good.
Potato pie and coffee, and it's just soothing. And you know, I mean, if it's there, I'm gonna get it.
Love that. Thank you. Marquita, what's yours?
Whatever my son puts in my face, because I probably didn't work through a couple of meals, and so he cooks really well. He does this grilled fish in the air fryer thingy, along with braised Brussels sprouts. And so, he makes sure that I'm okay when I'm at home. And
he take care of his mama. That's good. Thank you, Marquita.
I'm raising a Black male that's been voting since he turned the age of 18, and he has a voice in this political process. And so he and his friends are really active in making sure that all their friends are registered to vote and participating in this process.
Love that. Thank you. Adrian, bring us on home.
Yes, and your question, Stephanie, is gonna get me in trouble. I'm gonna look even younger than I am. At the end of the night, you know what? Honestly, like cookies and milk. I'm a huge cookies person. I love cookies. Even when I eat ice cream, like cookie dough is my favorite. So if I can grab some cookies, then I'm a happy person. It's that little piece of comfort food that charges me up and gets me ready for the next day.
I love that.
Right. I'm gonna have to get like Mike Espy and have that sweet potato pie and coffee.
There you go. There you go.
That coffee keep me up though. I don't know if I can do that, Mike.
Mike, let me tell you something. As again, I told you my family's from Jackson, Mississippi. If I could taste one more time a Big John Smoke. You been to Big John Smokes in Jackson?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's for another conversation. But let me say this.
Have you been to Bullies?
I ain't been to Bullies.
Go to Bullies. Okay. All right.
Okay. My mom was like, probably, yes, you have, but I don't remember. So I'm going to have to check that out next time I'm in town.
Okay.
But let me say, that's good to know so that when y'all win on election night that weekend, I know what to send y'all in the mail. Okay. Because we are going to be celebrating with you all across this country. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of each of you. I'm grateful for you. We need you. Thank you for stepping up. Please give thanks to your families, to your friends who are also in this race with you all. This is an important time, and you all are three candidates that I couldn't think of any better candidates for this moment and for your states and for this country. So just want to give you all my appreciation and our appreciation as the collective PAC. It's an honor to support you. We'll be with you through the finish line and into when you all are representing your states and this country as United States senators. So
Thank
with
you.
that being said, thank y'all.
Thank you. Until next time.
Yes. And so just a couple of closing for tuning in tonight. Especially again, there's been some tough news that has come to us over the past few days, over the past few months, over the past few years, our whole lifetimes. And so for you to take this time to watch this conversation, to be a part of it, by sharing with your friends to watch it, we appreciate it. And we want to let you know that our next speaker series event is going to be on October 1st. That's next week, which is nuts that October is already next week. It's going to be at 7 p.m. We're going to be talking to Pam Keith, who is running for Congress in the 18th Congressional District of Florida, and also Marilyn Strickland, who is running in the 10th Congressional District in Washington State. So please tune in for that conversation. And again, go to collectivepac.org/candidates to learn more about our three dynamic candidates this evening, as well as learn about the other 153 candidates that we have endorsed in addition to the three that we talked to this evening. We're excited about our endorsements. We're, again, supporting Black candidates up and down the ticket because it's important to vote up the ticket because what happens and who creates the laws on a local state level is just as important as who's creating it on the federal level. So please consider donating to these candidates. Donate through the collective and then go to their own websites and donate to them too because they need your support. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Stephanie Brown James, grateful to have you all here, and we will see you on October 1st. Bye. Thank you.